welcome to another hashtag Bears Victory Monday on Sports Zone Chicago. You listen to Second City Sports along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can catch Second City Sports every Monday and every Friday right here on YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube and Sports Zone Chicago on Facebook. We apologize for those of you that can't listen to us via the Facebook feed. You can reach us via the YouTube feed at Sports Zone Chicago. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's an Apple iTunes Store or Google Play. Make sure that app says Sports Zone Chicago. You can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, you can do so. We're available on all podcast platforms at WARR on Anchor. Make sure you type in that search engine box, WARR on Anchor. And you can follow WARR Media at all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Once again, at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends. And we're sorry for the bugs. For those of us, you'll still be able to listen to us on YouTube and in the audio version. We are like Sid said. So we apologize for the technical difficulties.
Yeah, so we have a guest coming up in the next hour as we talk baseball with Matt Snyder from CBSSports.com. He's the MLB insider. He's going to hop on with us to talk White Sox and the two wild card games in the NL, in the AL, and then predict what's going to happen in the playoffs going forward. And during the last segment of the show, we'll get into the best and worst from college football and some other fun stuff as well. Lakeena, even though we got off to a late start, let's get it started as we kick off our football power hour. Is going to be kind of shortened today because of our technical difficulties, but let's get it started talking about the Chicago Bears, that 24-14 win over the Detroit Lions yesterday at Soldier Field. Justin Fields looked impressive. It was a total turnaround from last week's performance in Cleveland, where the Bears lost by 20. But Justin Fields was 11-17 for 209 yards. He had an interception, but he was efficient in the pocket. His quarterback rating was at 82.7. David Montgomery, the Bears running back who was injured during the late stages of that game, he had 23 carries for 106 yards and 2 early touchdowns. Damian Williams, the backup running back for the Bears, had 8 carries for 55 yards and a touchdown. Darnell Mooney led the Bears in the receiving department, 5 catches, 125 yards, including a 64-yard catch. Allen Robinson finally showed up on the score sheet, 3 catches, 63 yards. His catch was 28 yards late in that third quarter. Lakeena and the defense did their thing with 4 sacks. Khalil Mack had a sack. Robert Quinn showed up with a sack. Alec Ogletree had a deflection early in the game, which kept the Lions off the scoreboard. That was the Lions' third trip to the red zone. There was a turnover on downs. Lakeena, the Bears did look good yesterday, even though it was a lesser opponent. The defense stepped up, and it was finally complemented by their offense.
Well, here's the thing for me, and I'm glad that, unfortunately for people on Facebook will not be seeing this, so, take it for what you will. It was the Lions. That's all I can say about that. It was the Lions. That's sort of like my whole thing. It was the Lions. I mean, the Lions did Lions things. They, Goff got hit in the face with the center hiked the ball to him before he even said anything. They missed some 4th down conversions deep into the Bears territory. Who knows what would have happened had they had scored points? Who knows, the trajectory of the game would have changed. I mean, look, Justin Fields, okay, he had an interception. He wasn't too flashy, but didn't make any major mistakes, and that's okay. But, the defense, okay, defense, let's say you do this against, a better opponent. All right, so we've seen this movie before, Sid, and I can't stress this enough. They do good against the not so good team. They do good against not so good teams. The team they're supposed to beat. But yet they can't do this against sort of the decent teams like the Browns, and we'll see with the Packers as they play them in a couple of weeks. So, I pardon me if I'm not too excited, the Bears are 2-2, yippee. Okay, yeah, it's against the Lions, so I'm gonna leave it at that.
Let's go back to the first drive of the game, Lakeena, and you could tell that the play calling was very different. Offensive coordinator Bill Lazor, they had a great game plan, and the players executed it to perfection. They used the running game to set up the pass. David Montgomery was effective. Justin Fields, he can throw from the pocket, folks. We all love him running, throwing on the run and running out of trouble, which is his strength, no doubt. But he sat there a couple of times in the pocket and threw to Darnell Mooney. He did it later in the game to Allen Robinson, surveying the field, picking that Lions bad secondary apart. On that first drive, you saw that long pass to Darnell Mooney. Mooney got separation, got deep in the zone coverage in that bad Lions secondary. It had a big gain. And Justin Fields' arm, folks, is impressive. I'm not saying his arm is like Warren Moon or Kurt Warner's. I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon just yet, but his deep ball is not bad. And we saw that yesterday, finally.
Yeah, I mean, we did. I mean, they kind of just let him be, who he is, and they kind of like let the playbook flow. They open the playbook for him, and that's fine. But again, these are the Lions. So I'm sorry. If I know it sounds like I'm going on a tangent here, but these are the Lions. So and the Lions helped the Bears win this game. I mean, let's be honest here. And I feel like at this point, and I'm nothing has changed how I feel about the Bears. David Montgomery, looks like he's going to be gone. He avoids a much more serious knee injury, but he is going to be gone for a couple of weeks. So it's going to be very interesting though to see. I mean, Damian Williams, he got a little banged up too, but he'll be the guy for at least a couple of weeks if Montgomery is out. So, and also for Fields, I mean, 11 for 17. A-Rob had some drops again, and Mooney, was sort of like the big dog there. He got 26 of those 200 some yards that Fields, in the Fields passing game. So it kind of, again, I'm not like too excited. I'm like, okay, it went 2-2. Good for you. But you know what? Again, these are the Lions. So again, I'm sorry if I'm not like throwing a parade or have blues or streamers coming out about this, but I'm sorry.
You're listening to Second City Sports on a Monday, hashtag Bears Victory Monday on our Football Power Hour. Sid and Lakeena here with you on Sports Zone Chicago. If you want to comment on today's show, you can do so only through our YouTube feed only. So go to Sports Zone Chicago via our YouTube page. Place your comments in the comments section, and Lakeena will get those comments up and running for you. If you try to do anything stupid or decide to troll and try to be so-called smart, Lakeena will politely give you the boot. Lakeena, going back to the Bears politely gave the Lions the boot yesterday on the late front. We talked about the defense is getting a year older, and who was going to step up besides Khalil Mack? Roquan Smith, if I forgot to mention at the top, he had a sack yesterday, so it was nice to see Roquan Smith do his thing. Even though Khalil Mack is the veteran of that defense, Roquan Smith, who's looking to get paid, he's, in my opinion, the best player on that defense because he's younger, he's active. He's, I think Aqib Talib said it yesterday on the broadcast. He's better in coverage than he is one-on-one because T.J. Hawkinson had a chance to catch a ball late in that first half, and Roquan Smith got called for pass interference. But outside of that, Roquan bounced back with that sack late in the fourth quarter. And this Bears defense, even though it's getting a year older, they still showing signs that they can be good. It's just like I said before a few moments ago, they were complimented by above average offensive performance yesterday.
Yeah, it was a kind of above average performance. I mean, look, A-Rod did what he needed to do. Darnell Mooney kept drives going. The running game helped. So it was a good, complete, offensive game here by the field that ran by the Bears. But again, you can do that with a really bad Lions team. So look, I feel like as for the defense, I mean, Hicks couldn't play because I guess after a series his groin was bothering him. We'll see if that becomes an issue. Roquan Smith did what he needed to do. Tyshawn Gibson was actually pretty good too for the Bears on the defensive end. So I mean, it's what, look, they did a nice thing. Robert Quinn, you heard his name a couple of times yesterday. So
yes,
look, that's cool. I mean, again, I'm not like I said, I'm not gonna get too freaked out or too like rah about it. This is what the Lions. So
Uh, Going back to Justin Fields, I liked what he said during his post-game presser yesterday. Like, I don't know if he caught it, but the one turnover that, actually two turnovers that he had, one of them that he recovered off a fumble. He said that was his fault, and we saw that a couple of times last week in the loss at Cleveland. We saw it a couple of times during the preseason. Justin Fields has to learn how to protect the football better. I think he will do that. He will get better at that. He recognizes his mistakes, and he's not presenting himself as the young guy that thinks that he knows it all. He doesn't go around with airs all over his face saying that I'm the man. Everybody should be worshiping me, and I own the room. From that perspective, he's not arrogant from a negative perspective. He seems like a humble young man. Yeah, I didn't play perfectly yesterday. I played better than I did last week at Cleveland. I could control what I could control, but that fumble was my fault, even though he recovered it. I should be better at that, and he will get better at that. Now, the interception late in the first half, it wasn't totally his fault. Deflections happen, and so be it. But I thought Justin Fields, he did not play a perfect game, but he did well enough for the Bears to win. Now, the offensive game plan was much, much better, and it was set by the running game in David Montgomery.
Yeah, you hope that, it looks like he did, like I said, it's like he did avoid any serious injury, but it looks like he is going to be gone for a couple of weeks. So, he kind of kept the things going. And look, I mean, the one pass rusher that the Lions, did have, I mean, he, from your call, what he's actually done for you, unfortunately, he tore his Achilles during one of those runs. So, that was left there. But yeah, I mean, look, another 100-yard, plus, game for David Montgomery, even though he had to pull out in the second, in the third quarter, I should say. But, I don't, like I said, I don't want to go too long to get to, because again, we really get back into the NFL, but the rest of the NFL before we have to go do our break and get ready for Matt. But, again, okay, if Bears had a decent performance, but again, you notice the theme here, folks, it's the Lions. So, again, I'm not gonna, let's see how they do next Sunday. I'm gonna go at Las Vegas. And we'll see what they can do. And look, this team is exactly who you thought they were. Of course, God rest his soul, the late great Denny Green. Like you said, we'll see how they do next few weeks against the Packers, against the Cardinals. They played a couple of weeks against. I know the Steelers. They haven't looked good, but they're still the Steelers. So I want to see how they play against the rest of the NFC West, because that's who they're going to have to play. So they may, they already lost to the Rams. They may lose the other three teams. So again, this team is exactly who you thought they were. And again, I'm not going to be too excited. This is a 500 team at best.
Taking a look at the numbers from the other side, the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff, 24-38 for 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he had a fumble, as Lakeena mentioned, early in the game. Jamal Williams, as we talked about with our guest Dan Miller on Friday, he had 14 carries for 66 yards. DeAndre Swift was a non-factor, only 8 carries for 66 yards. The only receiver that really stepped up for the Lions yesterday was Khalif Raymond. He had the only 2 touchdowns for the game. That kid could fly. I think the Lions has something in him. I'm not saying he's going to be a number 1 wide receiver, but he was the only one that showed up in the wide receiver department yesterday in terms of scoring. TJ Hawkinson, their tight end, he had 4 catches for 42 yards. His longest catch was from 22. Lakeena, the Detroit defense, they really didn't show up yesterday. The Bears, as we mentioned, they set the tone with the running game. Justin Fields hardly got touched at all. And it was all around good game for the Bears. Consider what happened last week at Cleveland.
Yeah. Like I said before, it's the Lions. So let's keep it going. Keep going. Like I said, we don't have time. So I want to get to the rest of the NFL. So let's keep it going, because I like I said, I'm the Bears, Lions. Okay, they're the Lions. The broadcast is actually pretty entertaining, and Talib was wearing was just was just very We'll just leave it at that. But yeah, let's keep it going. Come on, let's keep it moving.
All right, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. Let's review some of the key games from yesterday. Lakeena, let's start off at Atlanta. It was a Washington football team coming from behind to defeat the Falcons 34-30, thanks to Jared McKissick's diving airborne attempt to get into the end zone, which was called a touchdown. The call was upheld, and the Washington football team came away with the victory. Taylor Heineke for Washington had 290 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdown throws. Antonio Gibson, my guy on my fantasy football team, 14 carries, 63 yards, and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin had 6 catches, 123 yards, and 2 scores.
Yeah, just a amazing performance. If you saw his Heineken, just say his interview afterwards, I mean, this was a guy just a couple years ago. He was sleeping in his sister and brother-in-law's couch. That he was crashing their couch. That's just how bad it was. I mean, he actually played in one of the I forgot which league he played on. He played on one of the leagues that folded. So, but now he's come back. He got signed. Showed a little something in the playoff game against the Tom Brady and the Bucks, and he's actually with thanks to much in part to an injury to Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's probably now the guy. He's got his contract, and and I think, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that Washington's going to win the division, but he didn't make any mistakes. Had 3 touchdowns. That was sort of like a weird scoring thing, and the losing cause. Cordero Patterson had 3 touchdowns with catches, so unfortunately that was all for naught. That was just really one of the crazier games. It was just it evolved. I got a chance to catch some of it via my laptop here, and it was actually it turned out to be a pretty entertaining game, which could have been a dud.
I started Matt Ryan over Ryan Tannehill yesterday. Matt Ryan was looking good, and then he threw that dumb interception laying on his knees, and we'll leave it at that. We'll leave this score at this as well. The Buffalo Bills shut out the Houston Texans 40-0. We don't need to go over that.
No.
I did. This next game I watched the majority of it via my computer. It was the Dallas Cowboys 36 in the Carolina Panthers 28. Sam Darnold 26 of 39. As my computer goes blank for a moment, now it's back. Sam Darnold 301 yards, including 2 touchdown passes. He had 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Ezekiel Elliott for Dallas is back, 20 carries, 143 yards, and a touchdown. DJ Moore for Carolina had 8 receptions, 113 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Lakeena, I know you picked Carolina on Friday. They were right there in the first half. That was actually leading by 14-13. But it was Dallas Cowboys scoring 20 unanswered points in that third quarter that put that game away.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that Thomas Davis and Luke Keelan are no longer. They have both retired. So, unfortunately, and also J.C. Horn is hurt too. So I'm sure that would have been And look, I think the Carolina stayed close for a little bit, but I'll say, I mean, the Cowboys look really good right now. I mean, their defense has been really solid. Dax hasn't been made any major mistakes. Ezekiel Elliott, feed the Zeke, as everyone says in Dallas. Had 143 yards rushing. He kept the drives moving for the Cowboys. And look, I think right now, I'm not going to say they're the best team in the NFC, but I think they're definitely in that top 3, top 5 range.
The Indianapolis Colts went down to South Beach and picked up their first victory of the season. They defeated the Miami Dolphins 27-17. Carson Wentz 228 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor for the Colts ran the ball 60 times for 100 yards and a score. Devontae Parker was the only bright spot for the Dolphins. He had 4 catches for 77 yards and a score.
Yeah, they couldn't get the run game going for Miami. And as for the Colts, they really needed this win. They've been 0-3, and look, Jonathan Taylor, showing you that there's the reason why they picked him first. From Wisconsin, he showed you why. And look, Carson Wentz didn't make any major mistakes either. He got to 2 touchdowns. Those 2 passes. And look, the defense, look, they actually showed you why they were one of the top defenses in the NFL last year. I mean, Darius Leonard had 5 tackles, and it was just a really good performance by the defense. And look, Kamuko Toure had 2 sacks for them. So this is probably the best performance the Colts have shown this year.
This next game I watched in its entirety via my computer. It was the Cleveland Browns getting an important road victory, defeating the Minnesota Vikings 14-7. Kirk Cousins had 203 yards passing and a touchdown for the Vikings. Nick Chubb ran the ball well for Cleveland as expected, 21 carries for 100 yards. Justin Jefferson, my guy in my fantasy football team, 6 catches, 84 yards, and the only scorer for the home team.
Kirk Cousins unfortunately showed you why people have no faith in Kirk Cousins. He overthrew some. He overthrew some guys. I mean, there were a couple of drops. I mean, I think Jefferson had a drop and Thielen did too. And the defense did their job. The defense did what they were supposed to do. They sacked Mayfield 3 times. But again, they just couldn't get anything going. The running game, they didn't really feed the ball to Dalvin Cook very much. I know, or either Matheson either. So I'm kind of like surprised that they didn't like run the ball more, especially since Cousins was struggling. I think this is another game that Minnesota let slip away, and unfortunately, this has been a theme for them. You could probably say they should be 2-2 right now, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
I watched the end of the fourth quarter and the beginning of this game via my computer. It was the New York Giants coming back from 11-point second half deficit to defeat the Saints in overtime 27-21. Daniel Jones for the Giants had a big day, 402 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara for the Saints had 26 carries for 120 yards. Kenny Galladay stepped up for the Giants in the receiving department, 6 catches for 116 yards. Saquon Barkley looked good, Lakeena, yesterday with 2 touchdowns, including the game winner in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the tail end of this game, and yeah, I give the Giants credit. I mean, they kind of they kept it going. The Saints just really couldn't get it, just really couldn't get their offense going either. And the defense, unfortunately, they gave us some big plays late. Galladay stepped up for the Giants, like you said. Tony had a couple of big catches too. John Ross, I mean, had a couple of big catches as well for them. And look, I mean, the Giants, they needed a win, and they got their first win this season. I don't know what's going on with the Saints. I mean, I'm surprised the Saints play is not very well, especially since it's their first, official home game since, they've been displaced. They were displaced in first game, because of Ida. But, I don't know what to say. I mean, this is sort of one of those games where you kind of like you were left scratching your head afterwards. But good for the Giants.
Yeah. Speaking of another football team in New York City, an upset took place in East Rutherford, New Jersey, in MetLife Stadium. MetLife or MetLife, whatever the hell they call it these days.
It's MetLife.
MetLife. Okay, I was right the first time. Okay. The New York Jets defeated the Tennessee Titans in overtime 27-24. Ryan Tannehill had 298 yards passing and a touchdown. Derrick Henry, as you said, Lakeena, on Friday, should carry the Titans off, especially with the absence of Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, their stud wide receivers. Henry had 33 carries for 157 yards and a score. Corey Davis for the Jets had 4 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, that was sort of like one of the bigger upsets. I mean, Zach Wilson didn't make any big mistakes. He didn't throw an interception, though he was, and also to the defense step up for the Jets. They sacked Ryan Tannehill. They sacked Ryan Tannehill 7 times. I mean, that's that's just, I don't know what's going on. I know Lawan's been out, but that's still kind of like weird to me. Also, too, shout out to the Williams brothers, Quincy and Quinnen. They've each had a sack in the game. That's the first time it's ever happened that 2 brothers have had the sacks that played in the same game for the same team since sacks became official stat in 82. So the Williams brothers are doubly celebrating tonight. Yesterday, I mean.
In the last of the early games, let's stay on the East Coast. It was the Kansas City Chiefs over the Philadelphia Eagles, 42-30. Jalen Hurts for the Eagles had 387 yards passing, along with 2 touchdowns. Clyde Edwards-Helaire for Kansas City ran the ball 14 times for 102 yards. Tyreek Hill for the Chiefs had 11 catches, 186 yards, and 3 scores.
Yeah, just it was actually the Eagles actually kept alive for a little bit, but their defense kind of let them down. I mean, Patrick Mahomes showed you why he was the MVP a couple of years ago. 5 touchdowns. Elaire had 102 yards rushing, and Tyreek Hill. I mean, Tyreek Hill as like 186 yards and 3 touchdown catches. They just could not. The Eagles just could not slow down the Chiefs offense, and I'm sure the Eagles fans are probably kicking themselves because they feel like that game kind of slipped away from them. Also, to shout out to Andy Reid, he became the first coach to win 100 games with 2 different teams, including the playoffs. So, congrats to him. And also, he had a cheesesteak afterwards too, because remember he was in the hospital for a couple of days last week, for various reasons. But he actually said he had a cheesesteak. He said have a cheesesteak, so I'm sure he enjoyed one yesterday.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Bears Victory Monday in our football power hour, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Cindy Brown. Let's go over to the late games. Another upset took place yesterday on the West Coast. It was the Los Angeles Rams dropping their first game of the season at home to the Arizona Cardinals, 37-20. Matthew Stafford had 280 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Chase Edmonds ran the ball for the Cardinals on 12 carries. He had 120 yards rushing. Van Jefferson for the Rams showed up. It looks like he was the only one that showed up for the Rams offensively yesterday. 6 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown.
And also to show our buddy Armando who is watching us through our YouTube feed. What's up,
Hey.
Armando? Sorry you can't watch us through Facebook, but I'm glad we got YouTube for you so we can watch us. But yeah, I mean, this is probably the most surprising game of the day. Yesterday, I mean, I watched this game. I kind of like kept it like I watched like 3 different games, on my computer. Of course, I had and of course I had Steelers and Packers on the television. But look, the defense for the Cardinals. I mean, Brian Murphy Jr. had another interception. Byron Murphy Jr., I should say, he had another interception. They actually kind of kept the Rams in check, which I did not think that would happen. I mean, they forced a lot of 3 and outs, and they just, the Rams just couldn't get the offense going. And look, I mean, the Cardinals are now the only undefeated team left in the NFC. So I don't know how that happened. I'm glad for them. And No. Look, I was lobbying for the Cardinals last year, and it made me look kind of silly.
Me too.
But we both did. But they looked really good. Again, will they be like the top team in NFC West? We'll have to wait and see. But right now, their defense is really is looking good. Of course, Kyler Murray's doing his thing, but it's really their defense that kind of like led the charge for them.
Yeah, shout out to Kyler Murray. This is the first time he's defeated the LA Rams for the first time in his career. Redemption from last year, because if you guys remember, it was the regular season finale. The Arizona Cardinals would have won the game. They would have knocked the Bears out of the playoffs. Of course, Kyler Murray got hurt in there. That ended the Cardinals' playoff hopes. And number 2, this is the second time in the last 40 years that the Cardinals franchise has been 4-0 to start the season. Another I don't want to say upset that took place yesterday, even though I told you on Friday that this team was going to win. The Seattle Seahawks held on to defeat the 49ers 28-21. Jimmy Garoppolo, who was quote-unquote hurt in that first half. I watched some of this game.
Don't tell me you're doing this conspiracy. I mean, I've seen it all over 49ers Twitter. I mean,
but Jimmy Garoppolo, who was replaced in the second half by rookie quarterback Trey Lance, who had 2 touchdown passes of his own. Jimmy Garoppolo had 165 yards passing and a touchdown. Trey Sermon ran the ball well for the 49ers, 19 carries, 89 yards. Deebo Samuel had 8 catches for 156 yards and 2 scores for the 49ers. Russell Wilson had 3 total touchdowns in the Seahawks road win yesterday. Lakeena, as I suspected was going to happen, I didn't think Seattle was going to dominate the way they did, but Russell Wilson and those guys on offense came to play yesterday.
They did, and you can tell that he wanted to win this game because they split their season meeting. But you gotta think though, I think that the injuries on defense for the 49ers are you gotta think that's kind of made a deterrent for them. And they really could not get to Russell. I know they did get like 3 sacks against him, but they just went forward and they were able to kind of get those long drives. So good for them. And I kind of feel like I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people. I know Garoppolo's actually going to be out for a couple of weeks, I believe. So we'll see if Trey Lance does well in those games that he's going to be out. He might not really get the starting job.
It was the Denver Broncos losing their first game of the year. It was at home to the Baltimore Ravens, 23-7. Lamar Jackson had 316 yards passing and a touchdown pass. Latavius Murray ran the ball well for the Ravens, 18 carries, 59 yards in the score. Marquise Hollywood Brown, he actually caught a ball, Lakeena, for them, 91 yards and a touchdown. As we said on Friday, Lakeena, we all picked Denver. Myself, you, and Christine. I think we all picked Denver. Of course, Teddy Bridgewater went out of the game late with a concussion. He was replaced by Drew Lock. That offense for the Broncos just couldn't get going. Baltimore, I think they learned a lesson from their victory over the Lions last week. They almost lost that game. Yesterday, they learned their lesson and they kept their foot on the pedal, and they came out there with a victory.
Yeah, it was actually their defense that really kind of, was a spark for them. And, Tyus Bowser had 2 sacks and, in total they had 5 sacks total as a team. So it was actually one of those sacks that, Bridgewater had to go out because of the concussion. But they actually also keep a streak going that actually broke the Steelers streak, that keeping like 100 yards plus rushing in a game. So there was a little bit of gamesmanship there on the part of the Ravens, Steelers Twitter kind of went, mad, but look, I think they've learned a lesson from the first game. Just keep running the ball and don't depend on Lamar Jackson. Let him, use his arm, and then he's done that. And look, they look really good. The Ravens do. So we'll see if they can keep it up. Despite all the injuries. So let's see if they can keep this up.
The last of the late games from yesterday. This was CBS's national game. It was the Green Bay Packers over the Pittsburgh Steelers, 27-17. Lakeena, I didn't get a chance to watch this game in its entirety because I was watching other stuff, including baseball. We'll get to baseball in our next hour. But looking at some of the highlights, the Green Bay dominated for at least the majority of the game. Aaron Rodgers had 248 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. A.J. Dillon ran the ball well for the Packers, 81 yards off of 15 carries. Deontay Johnson was the only one that showed up from Pittsburgh yesterday. 9 catches for 90 yards and a score.
Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster had a couple of big drops, so I think that was sort of a deterring factor there for the Steelers. Also, if you remember at the end of the first half, there was a block field goal attempt from Crosby that I forgot who was it that ran the other way, but apparently Hayden got called for offsides, which led to a 5-yard penalty. They were able to get a field goal, and who knows how the game would have shifted had that not happened. But you can tell Big Ben just doesn't look very good, unfortunately, and I kind of feel like, could this be sort of like we're seeing kind of the end of the road for him, because they don't look good. They look very sluggish, and I just they came a long way from being 11-0 last year. Just saying.
As I told you on Friday, as I told you during our preview segment before the season started, you're looking at a decline of Ben Roethlisberger, and this is one of the reasons why I did not pick the Steelers to go to the playoffs this year. Big Ben is 39, not 29. Their running game was non-existent, and those hits that Ben Roethlisberger has taken over his career, it takes a toll on you. And like you said, Lakeena, they were lucky to start off 11-0 last year, even though they were the worst 11-0 team by many experts that said that in football last year. That's how they got into the playoffs last year. If it wasn't for that, they would have missed the playoffs last year too. And as I told you on Friday, this is the last time you'll see Aaron Rodgers and Ben Roethlisberger competing on the same field. This is the last year for both those guys with their respective teams.
Yeah, some people even were joking that maybe Rodgers will end up going to the Steelers next year, but
who knows?
Who knows? But yeah, so the Packers look really good, and I think the Packers have righted this ship. Now let's talk real quick about the return. Tom Brady's return. They needed Ryan Succop a field goal to kind of seal the win for them. And, against, of course, over the Patriots, it was sort of like emotional, all the pomp and circumstance. They cheered for him. And but I will say this, though. I think that offense from the Bucs, they miss Gronk. They really do. So I just want to make sure, people know that. And look, I mean, the Patriots kept it close. Mac Jones, they did the hurry up, which is what he was used to at Alabama. And they kind of kept it going, and they really keep it close. But, the defense, the Bucs defense actually stepped up when they had to. So it was a nice win and a very emotional. You saw all the press afterwards, and also too, apparently Bill Belichick actually went to Tom Brady, the locker room, the Raiders locker room with for the Bucs, and they talked for like 20 minutes. So.
Yeah, I'm just glad all the pomp and circumstances is over with, and I expected to see a much more exciting plays. We didn't get that. It was exciting last 2.5 minutes of the game. I thought we was going to see a whole lot more scoring, but you could tell that the weather had a big effect on this game with the steady rain coming down throughout that game in Foxborough. Wish we had that here in Chicago, but it didn't matter. The Bears came out with a victory. But back to the Patriots and Bucs. Mac Jones, as you mentioned, Lakeena, he looked very impressed. I think this is the first time that many people around the country had a chance to watch Mr. Jones. You see why Bill Belichick and crew drafted him. He had 275 yards passing off, 2 touchdowns. Leonard Fournette, who was, in my opinion, was the most consistent player on the Bucs offense last night. He had 20 carries for 91 yards. Mike Evans for the Bucs had 7 catches for 75 yards. Antonio Brown had a big drop late that could have put that game away.
Yeah, he did. There were actually more than a couple of drops that should have kept it going. Brady said it himself afterwards. So like I said, they missed Gronk, so you hope that doesn't become a factor. They're not having Gronk there because he's gonna be out for a few weeks. So they need to start catching the ball more. I think Evans has some drops too, and that's just I mean, they're really gonna hope that Gronk can come back.
You're listening to Second City Sports on the hashtag Bears Victory Monday on our Football Power Hour, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown. Lakeena, we got less than a minute and a half left. Let's do our studs and duds. I'll start with my 3 studs. Wide receiver Corey Davis from the Jets yesterday, 4 catches, 111 yards in the score. Kyler Murray from the Arizona Cardinals. And I'll give my 3rd stud to Justin Fields for the Chicago Bears, despite that interception.
Yeah, I'm gonna do both the New York teams for my studs. It's actually the first time since 2019 that both the Giants and the Jets have won the same day. Yeah, go all the way back to December 22nd of 2019, where the Giants beat Washington in overtime. Also, the Jets beat the Steelers. I'll say Arizona because we didn't expect this great performance from Arizona yesterday against the Rams. We thought that the Rams were the class of that division. They're saying no, don't forget about us. So those are my three studs.
All right, the three duds. I'll go first. I know I'm going to hell for this, but I don't care. Jimmy Garoppolo of the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, you don't want to make fun of a player who gets hurt or claims that's hurt, so I'll leave that part out of it. But before then, he did not look good. So Jimmy Garoppolo from the 49ers. My second dud, Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings. And that whole offensive staff, you couldn't score more than 7 points yesterday.
Yeah.
I know Cleveland's defense is good, but you couldn't score more than 7 points, even after the Dalvin Cook injury, who later returned to the game. That was just inexcusable. So just Kirk Cousins, the whole entire Minnesota offensive staff gets my second dud. And my third dud, I will go with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Actually, take that back. I'll go with Tennessee.
Okay. Well, you take Tennessee. I'll keep Pittsburgh as my dud.
Okay.
Big Ben does not look like Big Ben anymore at his peak, so I'll just say that. The Rams, I mean, I don't know what happened. I don't know that, that the Cardinals defense just kind of kept y'all from, going, down the field. That's really what, that's kind of kept them, that's how the Cardinals were able to dominate. And also to us for not picking the Cardinals, and also us for not picking the Ravens too. So us, the three of us, myself, Sid, and Christina, we're picking us for our duds because we're sorry, Baltimore Ravens. We apologize.
All right, hour number 1 is in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead. Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago continues with our guest, Matt Snyder from CBSSports.com. He's the MLB writer. He's going to hop on with us to talk about the upcoming wildcard games from the NL and the AL. He'll predict the rest of the playoff picture. And does he give our Chicago White Sox a chance to win this year's World Series? Well, along with Lakeena McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You're listening to Second City Sports only on Sports Zone Chicago.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the Blue Star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast, or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
It's hour number 2, and welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. On with McGee, I am Sydney Brown. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. KID80.
You can follow me at Keenan McGee on the Twitter and at Keenan_McGee on the IG.
As we wait for our guest, he'll jump on with us hopefully in the next couple of minutes or so. Matt Snyder from CBS Sports. He's the MLB writer to talk about the White Sox in the MLB playoffs. Lakeena, yesterday, the White Sox ended their 2021 regular season with the loss to the Detroit Tigers 5-2. But that was not important. What's important is that the majority of the players are healthy going into the playoffs. They finished their regular season with the 93 wins. I was there at the game on Saturday, and I talked about how the starting staff need to show what they're capable of going into the playoffs. We saw what Lance Lynn did on Friday in their victory over Detroit. We saw what Lucas Giolito did on Saturday, which I mentioned I was there. He only pitched 4 innings, but that Mel relief gave it up to the Tigers on Saturday. But it was Yohan Moncada, as I talked about all year long, Lakeena. He needs to get hot, and he had the game-winning 2-run home run in the 8th inning on Saturday to give the White Sox, which turned out to be the last victory of the regular season on Saturday. And it looks like his bat finally started to come around. It did on Saturday. Hopefully it shows up in the playoffs. Of course, yesterday, Luis Robert, a.k.a. La Pantera, hit a solo shot in the first inning. It turned out to be the last home run for the Sox for the regular season. But despite the loss yesterday, I'm very confident that this team can do big things in the playoffs. Yes, we got to take it one game at a time, one series at a time. But the White Sox are looking good going into the postseason, which starts for them this Thursday at Houston.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that series. That should be a lot of fun. I hope we can get Matt on a little bit to talk about it, because this could be one of those series that can go to distance. I mean, these are only best of 5. Houston has home field. So you wonder, okay, what's going to be the big factor here? I'm trying to see have they set up their lineups yet. But yeah, it's going to be a sort of this should be a fun series. I know people, they still have this hatred for Houston. So, but again, I think which their pitching has been really solid, Houston, and also their hitting too. And also you got guys there who have experience. So I think that's going to be another factor as well. So again, like I'm saying the last couple of weeks, which is going to be kind of like the main sort of the main factor. Is it going to be the pitching? Is it going to be the hitting? Is it going to be the middle relief? I just think that you just have to kind of think about it, because especially these short series, this is going to be what's you can't have like a error, or if someone has a really big have a really big outing, or someone that comes out of nowhere and just has like one of the best performances of their career. So that those things can happen. So I'm just looking forward to see how this sort of maps out and how this sort of shapes up, because I think this could be like I said, this could be one of those series that could go to distance.
White Sox fans, what chances do you have to give your Southsiders for winning this year's World Series? You can make a comment on our YouTube page only today. Just go to Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube, place your comments in the comments section. Lakeena will get them up for you. Lakeena, it looks like Lance McCullers will get the start in Game 1 for Houston. We won't get into the series in depth just yet. The times and dates hasn't been set. It'll probably be set by this time tomorrow. But looks like Lance Lynn I know it's not official yet, but it looks like Lance Lynn may be your Game 1 starter. Game 2 will be Friday. Well, Game 2 will be Friday. Listen to our show on Friday. We'll give you all the Game 2 preview bits and nuggets that you'll need before the game. It depends on what time that game starts. But it looks like Giolito may start Game 2, and Game 3 will take place next Sunday on the South Side. It looks like Dylan Cease will be your Game 3 starter. None of this is official yet, but it looks like there's going to be your rotation for the White Sox, at least through the first 3 games against the Astros.
Yeah, I got the schedule here. Like I said, the times are not official yet, but the MLB Network will get we'll get most of those games, if not all those games. So, and I'm sure it's going to be available. I think it's going to be like simulcast on FS1 in some cases. So if you don't have MLB Network, you can get them on FS1. Excuse me. And this is going to be, Keuchel's going to come out of the bullpen. Unfortunately, he didn't have his best start over the weekend against Detroit. So, that's unfortunate. You thought that maybe he could get it together, but just doesn't have the stuff right now. And it's gonna, like I said, it's going to depend on the pitching matchups. I mean, this is going to be like I said, it's going to be one of those days where things happen in these short series. So it's all going to, kind of come together. And let's see if Lynn can use his playoff experience. Giolito, who has his playoff experience from last year. Let's hope that they can kind of get together, and here's hoping that they can, get going.
Here's the two things that are concerning to me. The mental relief in terms of, like you said, Dallas Keuchel, Ronaldo Lopez, mostly Keuchel. If should the Sox get blown out or if they're in a close game and Tony Russo has to turn to those mental relief guys, that's the only thing I'm concerned about. Of course, Aaron Bummer has looked good through the month of September, so hopefully he can keep it up. But I'm worried about that mental relief before you get up to your setup guys, and then of course Liam Hendricks. I'm not worried about him. He's going to be fine. I'm worried about that middle relief, that bridge gap with the fifth. Let's just say your starters go 4 or 5 innings, perhaps 6. The 7th, perhaps the beginning of the 8th inning. Those guys I'm worried about. And number 2, as we talked about for the last month or so, if you're not hitting home runs, because the White Sox have a dangerous lineup with everybody being healthy now, when things are not going your way in terms of the power numbers of your home runs, can you manufacture runs? How many bases you're going to steal? And can you play the hit and run game? That's the thing I'm concerned about for the White Sox offensively going into this series against Houston.
The good news is that Tepera is back, so I think that helps. Having him back, that should definitely shore up that middle relief. I mean, I know Aaron Bummer, and that hopefully we can see the good Aaron Bummer we saw those last couple of series, and not the Aaron Bummer we've seen that can kind of give up 3 or 4 runs. I know that would make you go that would make you go crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be the factor here, right? I think the middle relief, and again, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I think, like I said before, where things could happen. I mean, listen, maybe the middle relief will pitch lights out, or maybe they'll give up 8 runs. I don't know, but like I said, in the playoffs, that's going to be kind of like, look, this is where these type of things you get sort of playoff heroes, if you will. So I'm looking forward to see what happens here.
Now let's go to the other side for the Houston Astros. They're your American League Western Division champions, and they have a stacked lineup. Of course, these two teams played each other early in the season. One series before the All-Star break, that was back in June, when a couple of things, the White Sox starting staff, that was on one of the few times they really got smashed around. The defense was bad for the Sox, and the Houston Astros swept the White Sox in Houston in that 4-game series, of course. The Houston Astros came here to Chicago. The first series following the All-Star break, the White Sox took 2 or 3. They should have swept the Astros, but they took 2 or 3 from the Astros here. The Saturday night game, which I was at, the White Sox scored 10-plus runs. Giolito had a complete game going. He picked up a win in that game. Of course, the following day, Carlos Rodon pitched one of his best games of the season, only giving up 1 hit against the Astros in that Sunday afternoon game. So the White Sox didn't have everybody healthy at the time, even though they were leading the division the majority of the season. You could tell that in that series here in Chicago, those White Sox can play with the Astros. They could get the guy. We said at the time, they could get the White Sox could get some healthy guys back. They could really be dangerous. Now you see Luis Robert was starting to come back at the time. He wasn't back yet, but he was still out. Eloy Jimenez was still out. He was a couple of weeks away from coming back. Of course, both those guys returned. You saw what they done from that point to close out the regular season. But I like the White Sox chances against the Astros. The Astros do have a solid lineup led by Yuli Gurriel. He led the team in batting average with .319. Yordan Alvarez, who won the Rookie of the Year a couple years ago over Eloy Jimenez, he led the team with 33 home runs and 104 RBI. Also, Jose Altuve, who's their leadoff guy, he sets the table. I know he was one of the ones that got caught up in the cheating scandal, and fans booed him across the country all year long as fans returned to the ballpark. But also, let's not forget about Carlos Correa as well. He was one of the main guys that contributed to the World Series title that franchise had back in 2017 when they defeated Dodgers in 7 games. So this is a formidable lineup, but at the same time, they could be had as well. It's going to be a tough season, but they could be had. And also, they're led by veteran manager Dusty Baker. I think there's now 5 teams that he's taken to the playoffs. There's San Francisco, the Cubs, Cincinnati, Washington, now Houston.
Yeah, and this again, if you can slow either one of those guys down, but again, they have the depth too. So, and like I said, they have the playoff experience. They also have Michael Brantley, who's a name that I'm sure White Sox fans know from his years.
Yeah, in Cleveland.
Cleveland. So, I mean, look, I think you've got can something weird things happen? Like I said before, in a 5-game series. Or sure, of course, their pitching has actually been pretty solid. I mean, you got guys that have experience. You got Zach Greinke, who's been there before. Lance McCullers Jr. I mean, he's another guy that's been pitching very well. Also, too, Ryan Presley is a very solid reliever. So they've got the pitching too. Like I said before, it's all going to depend on who can take advantage, who can hit the long ball as well as the short ball. Can some of these guys pitch kind of like unhittable? That's sort of going to be the thing. And like I said before, I mean, the 5-game series, where things happen. So again, this is going to be, like I said, can the White Sox win the series? Yes. Will they? I think it's 50-50.
I'm with you. It's 50-50 because, like you said, everything is magnified from this point forward. And for the White Sox, even though they had a little bit of a taste of it last year, losing to Oakland in that wild card series 2-1, these guys are hungry for more, even though they're still a young group. And that's why you have veteran manager Tony La Russa on your side, because these players, when asked to be called upon, they need to step up. On the other side for Houston, this group has been through it before. This is Dusty Baker's second year as manager with the Houston Astros, and so they went through some things behind the scenes, especially last year with no fans in the stands and all the hatred they got from the opponents last year. So it's going to be tough for Houston. I'm not. We talked about their lineup. It's a formidable lineup. You have to respect that. But their middle relief is worse than the White Sox. I think the White Sox overall, their pitching staff is better overall than Houston. But it's going to come down to who's going to make the least amount of mistakes and who's going to execute down the stretch, especially in terms of small ball.
Well, I think the execution is going to be the thing here. Which team can execute? Which team can manufacture runs? Who's pitching? Which pitching staff is going to have the advantage going to some of these series? Like I said before, where things can happen, and we'll see. I mean, like I said, it's 50-50. Can the Sox win? Sure, they can. I mean, look, again, a 5-gamer. Look, we've seen teams dominate. One team dominates the other, and the other team just can't get it together, and vice versa. So it's all going to depend on some it could be luck, or it could be other stuff too. So, we just got to wait and see. Now let's talk about some of these other series that we got coming, especially some of these wild card series. Darn you, Washington! Darn you, come on, Washington! Yeah, really get slate relievers. We want chaos, dang gubbits. But also too, unfortunately, the Mariners lost to the Angels. Really, come on, guys! Darn it, we wanted to see y'all in. But
I wanted chaos too. I was watching for it yesterday. We didn't get it.
I know we didn't get it. God darn it! But look, they got what they MLB got what they wanted. It's going to be Yankees and Red Sox. We're for tomorrow in the AL wildcard game. Who do you got?
Oh, this is going to be tough. I told you that Boston has been being carried by the offense all year. In particular, Rafael Devers. He's, I believe, the best offensive third baseman in the American League, perhaps in all of baseball. Of course, they have Kyle Schwarber, who came up huge in that series against one of his ex-teams, the Washington Nationals. Their pitching, Nathan Eovaldi, I believe, is going to get the start for Boston tomorrow.
Yep.
And so you got to treat this like a game 7. All systems are go. Now, what gives Boston the advantage is they're at home. Now, the Yankees, the last time they were there a couple of weeks ago, they swept the Red Sox. So they could build off confidence off of that. So they could play with these guys. I don't know who's going to take the ball for the Yankees tomorrow.
Cole.
Garrett Cole. Okay.
Yep. And I think that's
the case. Yeah, that's the case in Boston. They're going to have some trouble. Now, Boston, can they manufacture some runs here and there? Because even though they're at home, Garrett Cole, as you mentioned, is tough. He'll probably be your American League Cy Young Award winner. If the wind is not moving out in Fenway Park, can the Red Sox manufacture a couple of runs? If they can, it's going to be a long night for the Yankees. But I think it's going to be a close game. And the Yankees, thanks to Aaron Judge yesterday, in that 1-0 win over Tampa Bay, they clinched the top spot in the AL wild card. Can the Yankees do it again, going in Fenway and beat the Red Sox? Sure, they can. Now, for Eovaldi, if the Red Sox don't give up a run or two early in the first 3 innings, I believe Boston will have a better shot. But if the Yankees come out slugging early, I just still see Boston crawling back, especially with Garrett Cole on the mound.
Have they found those balls that didn't hit over there a couple of weeks ago? Have they found either one of them? Because if look, if we get that Stanton, I think it's going to be a long game for Boston. And look, I think Cole, that's probably why he was taken out of the rotation for the weekend, because I think Aaron Boone probably realized that he was probably going to need him for that 163 game. So, and that's what's happening. It'll be him against Eovaldi, like you said, for Boston. It's really, like I said, it's really going to depend on weird things happen in these games. You got teams that have like 8-0 wins or 9-0 wins that end up going to extras, 12, 13 innings. So, this is going to, these two rivals are of course going to get that last playoff spot. And again, we'll give it that wild card. We'll see what happens, and should be a fun one between these two. Like I said, it can only go one of two ways.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee, which is she. I'm Cindy Brown. That's me. As we talk about the MLB playoffs, the AL wildcard game is first up tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time on ESPN. The Yankees and Red Sox will get it on once again. The NL wildcard game will take place Wednesday at 7 p.m. Chicago time on ESPN. That's the St. Louis Cardinals and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Lakeena, before we move on to the National League, DJ LeMahieu, he's injured for the Yankees. I think that's going to hurt them going into this game tomorrow night. Should the Yankees advance to the ALCS, he'll be available to play. But Lakeena, I'll ask you, who do you have in this wild card game? I'll go first. I may be wrong for saying this, but I have the Yankees.
I have the Yankees too. I just think they're playing well. Like I said, I don't trust that if it goes to a bullpen type game, if they only pitch maybe 4 or 5 innings, I trust the Yankees bullpen a little bit more, which isn't really saying much than I do the Boston's bullpen. So, and I think it's really going to come down to the bats. Like I said, if we get Judge and or Stanton winning monster home runs for the Yankees, bye Red Sox. That's all. And as for the Cardinals, this Dodgers series. I mean, you got Adam Wainwright against Matt Scherzer. Both are, this is gonna be the first rodeo pitching in the playoffs. So it's really gonna depend on who can kind of avoid, giving up a lot of runs early. Can both these guys, pitch lights out? I think the Dodgers kind of gave up, their last game, because I think they realized that they weren't going to be able to win a division because the Giants beat the Padres. So I guess they kind of okay, let's take a step back. Let's get ready for tomorrow's game and Wednesday's game in this case, and we'll see what they can do. I mean, it's really, this game is really go either way. I mean, you got Nolan Arenado. Will he show up will he lead the way for them? Max Muncy, who should be getting NL MVP consideration, he's probably not, but. Justin Turner, I mean, that's why you brought Matt Scherzer and Justin Turner in, so that you can kind of make these kind of situations. And look, like I said before, I think if one pitcher can keep their team in it, that's going to be the thing that's going to Trey Turner, I should say, also Justin Turner too. We'll see if he can he play lights out. I keep getting the mix up for some reason, but I mean, it's really going to depend on which team can which pitcher can have that start to kind of help the hitting pick up the slack for them. And I just think that I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to pick the Dodgers. I know the Cardinals have been playing very well. They won 15 in a row or something, but I just think that the Dodgers know how to do these kind of games. So I think the Dodgers will end up winning this.
I'm going with the Dodgers too. Exit that last start that Max Scherzer had, which he got shelled. He's been very impressive ever since he was acquired along with Trey Turner from the Washington Nationals. Excuse me. Those two are, yeah, they were both of them were acquired from the Nationals in the trade deadline. Of course, both those guys bring experience from Washington winning the World Series at Houston a couple of years ago in 7 games. And Scherzer, he's proven time and time again that he's a big money pitcher. The Dodgers are going to need his experience and his big performance one more time on Wednesday night. But the Dodgers, as you mentioned, Lakeena, they've been on the road this last couple of weeks, pushing the Giants to the brink of the NL West division title. Congratulations to the Giants. They wrapped up the NL West title yesterday. But the Dodgers, they've been on the road these last couple of weeks, and I don't see them stopping right now in terms of the momentum. Whoever wins this game will play the San Francisco Giants in the division series and that best of 5 series. If the Dodgers should win on Wednesday, they're going to give the Giants a run for their money.
Which should be a fun one too. Let's hope that's the case. I mean, that's the Giants, first first division title since 2012. You know, all the way back then, and they were actually the longest odds, 40-1. So if you had the Giants win the NL West, I mean, you made some money yesterday. And look, this is going to be a very interesting series. Should it get to that point? Should it end up being Dodgers and Giants? I mean, it's probably going to go 7. So,
well, this is the best of 5.
Well, 5, right? So yeah, it's probably going to go 5.
And I think this is the first time these two franchises have ever met in the playoffs since moving to the West Coast.
Yeah, should it? Because we don't want to give the Cardinals. I know Cardinals fans are gonna say, "Why y'all saying this? They haven't played us yet." But we'll just not going far ahead. Now in the AL, we talked about Houston and of course the Sox. How about this other divisional game? We got the Braves and the Brewers. So what do you think about this best of 5?
I think this series will go 5 games. I know Atlanta has been on the roll these last couple of weeks. We talked about their injuries, Lakeena, through the second half of the season. They overcame a lot of odds to win that horrible NL West. I know the Mets led the division most of the way. They shot themselves in the foot even after acquiring Javier Baez from the Cubs and signing Francisco Lindor to that long contract after the season started. But like I said, that's not the Braves fault. The Mets let the division get away from them. The Philadelphia Phillies put up a great fight. They just didn't have enough offense at the end. So congrats again to the Braves. But I think the Braves offense will come alive in this playoff series. But the Milwaukee Brewers, I think they're more fundamentally sound than the Braves. I said this before. I'll say it again. Milwaukee is the National League version of the White Sox. Corbin Burns should be your NL Cy Young Award winner. Mm-hmm. I know I like Brandon Woodruff as well. I believe he'll get the ball in game 2. I'm not certain of that, but he should start one of these first 2 games of the series. And I think this series will go 5 games. It's going to come down to fundamentally sound baseball. I think Milwaukee has a little bit more than the Braves do. And the Braves starting pitching staff should step up. I expect more from them, but I think Milwaukee has just a little bit more of that edge. I know the Braves players said that they're playing with a chip on their shoulder after blowing a 3-1 lead to the Dodgers in the bubble last year in the NLCS. We'll see if that helps them, but I think Milwaukee just have a overall better. They're playing better as a team. I know the Braves have a bunch of superstar names, no doubt, but I think the Brewers are a better team overall, and I expect this series to go the distance. I'm picking the Brewers in 5.
Yeah, it's good. I would keep it short. I think Brewers in 5 as well, just because I trust their offense than the Braves offense. I know the Braves they can hit the ball as well. They definitely stepped up since Acuna Jr.'s injury, but I think it's going to be where they kind of ran out of gas. The Brewers have been consistent, pretty much throughout the season. So that's why I'm gonna go by that. And I think this could go 5, but I think I have Brewers in 4 for this particular series. And the winner of the Yankees, Rays, the Yankees, Red Sox will play the Rays. So keeping up with the AL East theme here, and should it be, I think both these series, whoever they end up playing, I think I would pick Rays in 5 if it's the Yankees, and I'll pick them in 4 if it's the Red Sox, because I just think that they're, like I said, their bullpens. I trust the Rays bullpen than I do neither of the Red Sox and Yankees bullpens.
I'd agree with you in your predictions, Lakeena. I don't think the Rays want to see the Yankees because, especially given this series we saw this past weekend. Even though Tampa Bay had technically had nothing to play for, they still gave the Yankees a run for their money. I think they won 2 out of 3. But if you're the Rays, you don't want to see the Yankees because even though I believe the Rays are a better team, you don't want to see the Yankees because the Yankees bullpen, even though it's been up and down all year long, the Yankee all this Chapman who's been on a roll these last couple of weeks, he can shut you down. And that starting staff of Yankees is much better than Boston. If Boston should win that game tomorrow night, if you're the Rays, you could breathe a sigh of relief temporarily, but I think Tampa Bay will own Boston more than they would the Yankees. Like you said, if it's Tampa and Yankees, that series will go 5. Remember, these 2 teams met up in the bubble last year in the playoffs. It turned out to be a heck of a series, and so that what happened last year will carry over to this year. But if it's Boston and Tampa, I think Tampa should have a lesser of a struggle against Boston.
Yeah, should be a fun series, for both instances. And since we got a couple more minutes left before we go our break, Sid, what was your kind of like the thing that kind of surprised you in the regular season?
Shout out to the Seattle Mariners. And they won 90 games. No one saw that coming. As we said before, I was rooting for chaos. We didn't get that yesterday, but Seattle made it entertaining. I don't know if you called Dave Sims, the TV voice of the
Yeah, I
Mariners,
did.
his call
Yeah.
Saturday night. It was amazing. It was been all over Twitter throughout the weekend. So Dave Sims, of course, does a great job for the Mariners for Root Sports, I believe, in Seattle. So I know their season is over. So hopefully he's back on the mic for them next year. The Toronto Blue Jays, they were one of the last teams that tried to hang on. And when the Yankees and Red Sox won yesterday, Toronto was one of those teams, along with Seattle, they were out as far as playoff contention. That team won 90 games as well. Give that organization credit. They played in 3-4 different cities this year, including Toronto, and how they kept that intensity up. I don't know how they did, but they did it. I think that's a club. I said Toronto will be my AL wild card representative this year. Of course, they fell a little bit short, but watch out for them next year. Hopefully, they can look for some starting pitching in the offseason. Vlad Guerrero Jr. played at AL MVP type level. I'm sure Shohei Ohtani will have something to say about that. That award is his. But Vlad Guerrero Jr., 48 home runs this year, very impressive. That's still a good young squad in terms of offense, but hopefully Toronto's management can look for some stellar starting pitching this offseason.
And they have all those guys like under contract because they all came from the minors, most of them. So they can't go out and get a couple of starting pitchers because I think that's sort of what kept them. And I said it before. I mean, look, I was so I really wanted the Blue Jays to sneak into that playoff wild card, but that didn't happen. But again, this will give them a abundance for next year. Give them motivation for next year, and perhaps maybe try and look, the fact that they won 91 games despite everything that they went through. Having to travel back and forth, not being able to even pitch, even play in Toronto initially. So that's actually pretty impressive. That's credit to the management staff and just the organizational staff too. The fact that they were able to kind of keep it all together. Now, I would say probably the most disappointing is the Padres.
Yes.
I mean, there's really nothing more you can say about them. I mean, I know Tatis Jr.'s injury, Fernando Tatis Jr.'s injury. I think that kind of played a part as well. And there's already, some people that are saying that maybe the manager may end up losing his job. Jace Tingler, there were some rumblings about that, yesterday, in the last couple of days. So we'll see where that goes. I'll say that, the Cubs, that they finished up, pretty well. They won a couple of games. So I think they won 71, which I don't think anybody saw coming after they basically, got rid of everybody. But the fact that they play hard and if you're the Cubs, you better try at least start turning the corner as you get into next, at least like halfway through next season.
Yeah, on the Cubs, real quick. We talked about what they're playing. We try to figure out what their plan is going to be this offseason. Will you give middle of the road veterans 2-3 year contracts to see if you can be competitive, or will you stay the White Sox / Astros course in terms of developing young guys and bringing them up slowly? I don't think that this rebuild or retool, whatever they want to call it, I don't think it's going to be as long as people think, like the Theo and Jed era. But as we said before, again, this season was a wash in terms of after the trade deadline. And I think maybe the first half of next season will be a wash as well. If the guys that you pick up in free agency or the guys that the guys you want to call up at some point next season, you want to see the fruits of your labor start to develop. And so it's going to be interesting to see what Jed Hoyer does this offseason.
Yeah, we'll see what direction. Like I said before, I've been saying it for like the last couple of months. If they only start turning the corner, people are going to start, tuning out, and people are going to stop watching Marquee, and then people are going to start going to Wrigley. You saw that a little bit of that this year near those last home games. There wasn't a lot of people there, so we'll just have to wait and see what they do. All right, so we got to take a really quick break. We'll talk some couple big upsets in college football, and the NBA actually started their preseason game, which a lot of people probably didn't know that because I forgot myself. But
so did I.
Yeah, right. But so we'll talk more about that coming up next in our last break. This is Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Stay right there.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago. In Sunday's Major League Baseball action, the Cubs got pounded 9-1 at home against Kansas City. The White Sox shut out on the road 9-0 at Tampa. NFL preseason on Saturday, the Bills hammered the Bears 41-15. Andy Dalton, 11 of 17, passing 146 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Fields, 9 of 19 for 80 yards. Head coach Matt Nagy says Dalton remains the Week 1 starter and that Fields is ahead of schedule.
When you look at a guy like Justin and you see the things that he's doing, are there some things that he can get better at? Yeah, for sure. That's going to be, we're going to say that 3 years from now. But at the same point in time, for him, there's also things that he's doing better probably than we thought coming into this, which is good too. Like, that's what we want. We want that to happen.
Download the free Score app. Lightning fast updates so you never miss a thing. It's why the Score app is one of North America's most popular sports apps. I'm Chuck Sanders. That's the Sports Flash on the Sports Zone Chicago.
Blue Star medicated ointment works fast to relieve the pain and itch of almost any skin irritation.
It's amazing. It's like as soon as you put it on, you can feel it working. We've had Blue Star in the family for years. It works on everything.
I love the cooling sensation on my athlete's foot.
What a relief for my eczema.
Nothing worked on my dry, cracked skin until I tried Blue Star.
Blue Star is great for scalp itch.
Look for the white box with the blue star in the first aid section. Feel Blue Star work fast or your money back.
Want to hear something amazing? Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year, automatically, dollar for dollar, with no limit on how much you can earn. Extra cash? Come on, how amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing when you realize all the places where Discover is accepted. 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. So when it comes to Discover, get used to hearing yes more often. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2021 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We are live and in living color along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. If you want to comment on today's show, you can do so by going to our YouTube page at Sports Zone Chicago. Place your comments or questions in the comment section. We'll get them up on the screen for you. Lakeena, let's review the top games from college football from week 5 from this past weekend. It was number 2 Georgia over number 8 Arkansas, 37-0.
Yeah, I did not see that at all. I mean, that was sort of like, that was probably one of like the biggest surprises, the fact that they were able to beat him as well as as bad as they did. I mean, it was a Bulldogs' third shot victory over an AP top 10 opponent in the AP poll era. So, their first win was defeating Alabama in 76. So it just, look, I'm not saying that they're the number one team. Look, Alabama still has that on lock, but they looked really good. I mean, I have to say, and Stetson Bennett. I mean, what a step up from their quarterback. He didn't play, and it was actually their defense. Their defense was actually the thing that sort of kept them going, and it was just like they just dominated from start to finish. It was just like they put on a clinic against Arkansas. No, okay, that's not saying that's not Arkansas isn't a bad team, but I think maybe they benefited from not playing very good teams. I guess Georgia's at a different level right now.
In Big Ten, actually, it was number 14, the Michigan Wolverines. They go to Camp Randall. They dominated the Wisconsin Badgers 38-17. Jim Harbaugh with another big win on the road.
I think having totally overhauling the coaching staff it's paying dividends for them. Kay McNamara, another 2 touchdown passes. Roman Wilson, he's kind of been picking up the slack, if you will, since Ricky Bell got hurt, and it's been really good. I mean, like I said, their defense is sort of been kind of like the thing. They had a couple of turnovers. Wisconsin, I mean, I don't know which is worse, Wisconsin's offense or the Bears' offense. People were making that joke early on, but I mean, Michigan will be facing Penn State. We'll talk more about that on Friday, but Michigan looks good at this point of the season, 5-0. I think for the first time in a while in the Harbaugh era.
Staying in the Big Ten, it was the University of Illinois defying the lineup, picking up another win. They defeated Charlotte 24-14.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they just had to win that game. I know our buddy Lamont Scott, who I don't know if he's listening to this over our YouTube page, but it's just, I mean, they get their second win of the season, okay, or something. But that's actually a pretty good Charlotte team. So the fact that they were able to win that game, I mean, I think if they were at Club Lit as they call it down there in Charlotte, their stadium, they probably would have lost. But the fact that they were at home, they were able to kind of maneuver into the crowd. So a nice win for them.
Staying with the Big Ten one more time, it was Minnesota, the Golden Gophers over the Purdue Boilermakers 2013.
They needed that after what happened a couple weeks ago at home, so they really needed that win desperately. And going to the Cincy Notre Dame game, and Desmond Ridder, I think he should be right there in the Heisman race.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is I believe this is their first win against a top 10 team. Let me look at that very quick for a second. Yeah, their win over Notre Dame is their first ever road win versus a AP top 10 team. They were 0-23 prior to that, so. That's actually, not a pretty good way to kind of, broke that streak. Ritter had a 2 touchdown passes and a touchdown run. And, it was actually their defense. Their defense actually, kept, the Irish at bay. They had 2 interceptions. So, I think credit to Luke Fickell, they took it to, their former coach, Brian Kelly.
Now with a question for you before we move on, with Clemson struggling, and it looks like Cincinnati, many people predicted them to go undefeated, which I think was going to happen. Do you think that Cincinnati will actually can crash the party and get in that 4-team playoff this season?
A lot has to happen ahead of them. If I saw Danny Cannell say that we make it a 2-loss team in the playoff. I don't think how you would do that, but
as of now, no.
No, I think no. I don't think you're going to see Clemson somehow sneak in there. That's kind of silly. But yeah, I think just take it 1 week at a time. I'm sure Luke Fickell's going to tell his guys to take it 1 week at a time. Don't go far. Don't look too far ahead. Every game is important. In their conference, because that conference, the American, is actually pretty good. So I'm sure. We'll see what happens. Still a lot of season left, though.
Speaking of number 1 Alabama, the Crimson Tide took care of Ole Miss, ranked number 12. They took care of the good old Mississippi, 42-21. The Running Rebels went down in flames in Tuscaloosa.
Popcorn, I guess that popcorn's birthday. I guess Lane Kiffin was teasing before the game. Yeah, again, they dominated. I mean, they did what they could to kind of get the hurry up, and all that. But, Bryce Young, I think, again, is showing you that he might be, I don't know if he'll win the Heisman since he's only a sophomore, but, he looks like he just looks really good at this point in the season. He's not letting the pressure get to them. And they were just too, that offense was just too much for their defense. So I think that popcorn is burnt, I think.
Going back to locally in college football, shout out to the Northern Illinois Huskies. They defeated Eastern Michigan 27-20. Now going to the Pac-12 or the Pac-10, excuse me for my old age, quote unquote. Number 3 Oregon, the Mighty Ducks were upset by the Stanford Cardinal 31-24 in overtime.
Had a little help from the refs there. I'm just gonna be real. No, I'm not being facetious here. I'm not.
You didn't put any money down on that game, did you?
No. But okay. I think
I was just making sure.
But I think those refs did. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, he got called for targeting, which wasn't targeting. That's a whole nother thing with the targeting rule. And then there was another penalty against one of their guys, PI penalty that was not a PI. There was another PI in the end zone. It was just a really stupid. It was a horribly called game. It was a horribly called officiated game, and I don't want to talk about this game anymore. Yes, Oregon had their chance to put the game away, but it never should have gotten that point in overtime. So I'm sorry, Stanford fans. I love y'all, but y'all know y'all should not have won that game.
Well, this next game I wanted offense. Well, we got it. It was the number 6 ranked Oklahoma Sooners. They got by Kansas State, the Wildcats, 37-31.
It was just a strange game. There was I guess an onside kick, but that wasn't an onside kick because the puncher, the kicker actually kicked the ball, which kind of maneuver, which is illegal, and blah blah blah. It was just a crazy game. And look, I mean, they did just enough to win. Oklahoma did, like I said, the defense will always make games interesting for them. Oklahoma, and so that's. But it was a visual loss that happened a couple of years ago. They're in Manhattan, so they were kind of rebound from that loss. Florida losing to Kentucky. I mean, that that game, I think that's kind of a surprise. They're now 5-0, and Mike Stoops, who's the coach there, I mean, he's got, his guys playing very well. It's actually Kentucky's first win against Florida in Lexington, going all the way back to 1986. So it's been a while for them. So it was actually their defense, and it's just that Florida just couldn't really put it together. And there was some questionable play calling late in that game that could have tied the game. It was just very weird. But then you know what? Look, Wayne Dell Robinson, who is the Nebraska transfer. I know Nebraska would love to have him there right now, but he's been playing very well for them. Had a touchdown catch. So look, I'm not saying that Kentucky's the best team in the SEC. I'm not saying that, folks, but they're leading the East right now.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakeena McGee. I am Cindy Browns. We review the best and worst of college football from Week 5 from this past weekend. Lakeena, the 11th ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, they took care of Rutgers 52-13 in a dominating performance. Can we say Ohio State is back yet, or do we have to wait for them to play a better opponent?
Wait. I say wait.
Okay.
I mean, look, I think Rutgers, look, I know they've been playing pretty well up until a couple of weeks ago against Michigan, but, I mean, I'm not really saying that this is a synopsis. I mean, right now, I think, Rutgers, Ohio State is definitely not, like I said, I did not buy it. I still don't buy it. Let's have them play. Let's see them against better opponents. They play. I think they play Penn State. I'm not sure, but they do play Michigan. We'll see how they look at the end of the season. So, again, I think they did what they're supposed to do. So,
number 15, the Texas A&M Aggies. They were upset by Mississippi State. The Bulldogs got by them 26-22.
Probably in College Station. I mean, that was people are already calling for Jimbo Fisher's job. I mean, that was that's just
shocking.
Will Rogers 408 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's crazy. And look, they're 3. This is a 3-2 team. They look like they were undefeated. So the fact that they just couldn't get their offense going, the Aggies. So they had their struggles against Arkansas. We saw why they lost to Arkansas. They struggled a couple other of their games. So, I mean, what more can you say? I mean, I think right now, I think it's Alabama, Georgia. You could probably put Kentucky there in another tier, and everybody else in the SEC.
The 19th ranked Oklahoma State, the Cowboys, got by number 21 ranked Baylor Bears 24-14.
I watched a little bit of this game on FS1, and I have to say, though, I mean, a lot of people thought that this was going to be a rebuilding year for Oklahoma State, but it hasn't. I mean, they beat Boise State at Boise, that blue turf, and I kind of feel like this is sort of like, look, I mean, Baylor beat Iowa State, but that kind of like, and also too, Spencer Sanders, who had 3 interceptions, he was able to overcome that. But also to Jalen Warren, who is another guy, 125 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, their defense also helped for Oklahoma State. So, that kind of, they kind of slowed down Baylor, and Baylor just couldn't. They went forward a couple of times. They just couldn't. The Cowboys defense stepped up when they had to, and just this was a nice way for them. And look, they're 5-0. So you're my gun, you're over 50 now, but you'll be happy with that.
The Saturday night showcase game on ABC was no showcase, except if you were a Penn State fan. The number 4 ranked Nittany Lions got by Indiana, actually dominating Indiana, shut them out 24-0.
Yeah, once they lost Michael Penix to injury, that was kind of like a wrap for them. And I'm just like, Penn State looks really good. I mean, they have a big matchup against Michigan. Again, we'll talk about that on Friday. But yeah, I mean, look, Penn State looks really good. I mean, Sean Clifford again had a really big outing, 3 touchdown passes, and look, I just think that I think Penn State's gonna be right up there for the playoff as of right now.
I think so too. As
of right now. We'll see once they play Michigan, but right now, we'll see. They didn't get caught looking ahead to that Michigan game too, so you got to commend them for that.
Yeah, it was. Number 22 Auburn getting by LSU. The Tigers go down at home 24-19.
I believe this is their first win. I believe it's their first win in Baton Rouge since like the early 2000s. No, actually even before that, like 98 or something like that, I believe. So, and I'm a little, I mean, that's sort of a surprising. I mean, I actually watched a little bit. It's kind of like a little late. I mean, it was like about 11 or something when this game ended. And look, Bo Nix, after they booed him a couple weeks ago against Georgia State.
Yeah.
Did something that even his dad Patrick didn't get a chance to do. He, beating LSU at LSU. And, look, he made the big plays. They had that big touchdown. They scored 14 unanswered. And, I think Auburn, they're starting to turn a corner a little bit. I know they're, they're 4-1. I know some people want to rag on them because they almost lost to Georgia State at home. They benefit from calls, whatever. But look, they did what you're supposed to do in a hostile environment in the SEC. So good for them.
Speaking of hostile environment, 25th ranked, the Clemson Tigers get by Boston College 19-13. Do you see Clemson going on a roll here, or are we just looking at an off year for the Tigers?
They could probably finish strong. I mean, look, Boston College, they had their chances to win that game late. I think they had like a fumble or something like that. I didn't get a chance to watch that game, but they had a fumble, so that kept them from winning. And then unfortunately for Clemson, they're now outside the top 25 for the first time, I believe, since Dabo's first year, 08 or something like that, which I think was Dabo's first year or right before Dabo got there. So it's been a while. And look, they can use this motivation to kind of try to finish strong and maybe not necessarily, get into one of those New Year's Six games, but maybe not. I don't think the playoff. I think the playoffs out of the question right now. But I'm kind of like, look, I kind of like what I see. I mean, look, I think they're starting to turn a corner a little bit. So, but again, we'll see.
Back locally, the Northwestern Wildcats, they get blasted by the Nebraska Cornhuskers 56-7, and we'll leave it at that.
I saw a little bit of some of the highlights. They just did not look good. I mean, Adrian Martinez, they needed that game like that. So Nebraska, this is unfortunately this is what happens with Northwestern. They have a big year. They go all the way to the Big Ten championship game, but then they end up sticking it up the next year. So that par for the course, unfortunately.
Yeah, we talked about this 2 years ago, Lakeena. The same thing happened in 2019. They struggled. They came back, like I said, last year, made it to the Big Ten title game. This year is going down in smoke. To wrap up our college football talk, Lakeena, let's go to some West Coast college football. That's what you love. Oregon State over Washington 27-24. This was the game. I did catch a couple of highlights of this game. Herb Edwards and his Arizona State Sun Devils, they dominated number 20 UCLA. The Bruins go down in flames 42-23. Chip Kelly, can they get him on the hot seat again?
Yeah, I think that this might be one of those games where they might have him on a hot seat now. And especially after that loss to Fresno State. Also, although Fresno State is actually pretty good, so I think they might give him a little bit of a leeway there. But yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels had 2 touchdowns, passes, 286 yards, passing yards for him. They didn't really have to run the ball too much, but they actually made enough so that they can, they had some short fields, and I believe they had a lot of, they actually were able to slow them down, and I think the offense just has not done well. And also too, their defense. I mean, I think they lost a couple of guys on defense, so I think that's sort of that's kind of not been a good thing for them as well. I mean, although Arizona State defense, I mean they sacked Thompson Robinson 4 times, so that stalled some drives for UCLA. So, but yeah, this is a big win for them, especially in that Pac-12 West. It's wide open, so we'll see if they can take advantage.
Yeah, and last score, speaking of Fresno State, they were upset by Hawaii 27-24.
Yeah, they actually were starting to catch up when that game was actually really late, so I couldn't stay up to watch that. But I saw they were talking about it on the game day final with Matt Berry, Joey Galloway, and Jesse Palmer. And yeah, I mean, but I mean, look, a nice win for Todd Graham and that Warriors program. I mean, they're not playing in front of fans because of COVID. And the law is there, and their governors were very adamant that no, you guys cannot play in front of crowds. But look, a great win for them, and that's gonna be that was actually a very interesting game too. I saw the highlights of that. So look, good for Hawaii, and then Todd Graham, his first, he's won big games before at Arizona State. So, a nice win for them and for that program.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. As we have a few minutes left for our show for this Monday's edition, Lakeena, you mentioned that the NBA preseason kicked off yesterday. I saw an advertisement for it, but I missed the game. I know it was the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, I didn't watch a single minute of that game. I'm sorry.
I didn't either.
I don't think a lot of people. I think people forgot that it was on because everyone's in football mode right now. I know they did.
And baseball playoffs starting kick in
the
gear.
MLB playoffs too. Yeah, so I mean, okay, yay. I mean, look, I'm actually looking forward to see what the Bulls do, how they look. I know Patrick Williams is going to be out for a few weeks, also Kobe White as well, but I want to see how the new look Bulls look. They're finally
Do they
starting
start
to get.
this Tuesday or Wednesday? I believe.
I gotta check. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll check the schedule, but yeah, I mean, I want to see how this new Bulls team looks. I mean, I kind of. Like I'm kind of curious. It's actually tomorrow. Yeah, they play Cleveland, so at home. So there's gonna be full crowds. So yeah, look, I might check it out a little bit. I mean, I'm sure our buddies Mac Peck and Big Dave Watson will be doing stuff for Bulls Outcast on the Hot Mic and on YouTube. For Bow Sports. So make sure to check that out if they are gonna do something. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to see how they look. What about you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see what offensive assistant that Billy Donovan implements for this team. Of course, you mentioned the injuries to Patrick Williams and Kobe White. Both of them won't return until sometime in November. And how will Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball, how will they mesh up on the court? And DeMar DeRozan, same thing. How he supports Zach LaVine. DeMar DeRozan was the man in his early years in Toronto. He played a kind of a supporting cast role. Sometimes he was the man when he was with San Antonio the last couple of years. I want to see how he will step up in that supporting role with Zach LaVine, because Zach LaVine is the best player on that team. He's the superstar on the rise, and he's the man on that team. So how are those three mesh together on the court? I want to see how that chemistry, how would that start to develop as Billy Donovan, the head coach of the Bulls, implements his new offensive system? And number two, how would this team play better defensively?
Right. I mean, that's going to be another thing, right? I mean, the defense is still an issue for the Bulls. It's been that way for last few years. So, yeah. I mean, we'll see how they look. I mean, I kind of feel like it's really going to depend on like how everyone looks. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of Ayo, Ayo Dosunmu, especially with the injuries to P. Will and Kobe. So, I'm sure he's going to be featured a lot. And look, I'm looking forward to see how this team looks. I mean, lots of high flying, kind of like a Midwest version of Lob City, if you will. So I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit of that. And then even when I get back at full strength, I mean, I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more, going to be putting on a show here for us that you see it for us watching at home. So it should be a lot of fun.
And also, too, I want to see how the energy from guys from the bench, since Daniel Tice couldn't come back to the Bulls because of salary cap concerns. I know Tony Bradley Jr. was picked up in the offseason, but I want to see how this Bulls team from the bench perspective, outside of Ayo Dosunmu, the rookie, I want to see what Tony Bradley Jr. does. Who else is going to give you that defensive presence, especially coming off the bench like Daniel Tice did last year when he was acquired in the trade deadline for the Bulls?
Also, too, Alex Caruso, we'll see how he looks in the Bulls uniform.
Yes, he's going to bring it in terms of the perimeter defense. I want to see what he does, especially if he plays tomorrow night. I want to see what he does. What tone does he set coming off the bench?
That's it. Should be a lot of fun as well for the Bulls, and lots of NBA preseason games. I'm sure you can see it on your local, Fox Sports or
Bally
Comcast
Sports
or Bally Sports, if you will. So so all that stuff, I'm sure you'll find it.
NBA TV as well.
Yeah, and also too, I'm sure ESPN will probably show some, a couple of preseason games as well. So should be a lot of fun.
Real quick, Lakeena. Yeah, go on.
You go first.
Okay. Before we move on, I know we have a couple of minutes left, but I think we predicted what's going to happen with the Ben Simmons situation. Are you just as sick of it as I am?
Me too. Yes. My head hurts. Like, okay, he doesn't want to show up. Okay, that's $200,000 a day that he's missing out on. So money talks in the end. So I'm sure they'll work it out. And look, nobody wants. Look, I don't know who. Could Golden State perhaps maybe. If you guys trade James Wiseman, I don't know, but. I just I'm so sick of it right now, Sid. I just want to throw myself against the wall. I'm so sick of it right now.
I know Joel Embiid was asked about it at media day last week. I know his other current teammates for now has been saying the right things, but they want to get rid of Ben Simmons. It was Doc Rivers' fault after what he said following that Game 7 loss at home against Atlanta last year. He was asked, was Ben Simmons a championship player? Just paraphrase a little bit. He said, right now, I don't know. That killed his trade value right there if you wanted to actually trade him during the summer. As I predicted a month ago, Ben Simmons is going to have to play nice he's going to get traded eventually, but it's going to be well after the season starts that he's going to get traded.
Well, and to who though? I think that's going to be another thing. I think to who?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be sort of the number one question. Who's gonna? Will it be the Warriors? I mean, will they trade him in the Eastern Conference? I don't think a lot of Eastern Conference teams want him. I don't
see that happening. Certain things have happened, but I don't see it as of right now.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Maybe Portland, play with Dame, but I don't know. Or maybe they would trade for Dame. I don't know. But real quick, since we got a few more minutes left, we get a chance to talk about the story because we thought we were going to have Matt Snyder on. I don't know what happened there, but hopefully we'll have him on soon. The Las Vegas Raiders versus the Los Angeles Chargers on Monday night. Although also no Manning simulcast. Yeah, they're taking a few weeks off. I think they're not going to come back to like week 7. I think they're only going to do it 10 games a season these next 3 years. So, sorry about that, folks. But what do you see this game, real quick?
I'm looking for. I know the Raiders host the Bears next week, so I know a lot of Bears fans will be tuning into this game. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert, do not turn the football over, and can you run the football with Austin Eckler? If the Chargers can do those two things, I think they'll have a better chance to win. I think that I did pick them to win tonight's game. The Raiders defense, even though it's been good this year, it's not really something to rave home about. On the flip side, Derek Carr is having a phenomenal year. I know him and Coach John Gruden have a love-hate relationship. I'm using that in air quotes. So for the Raiders, I know they started this running the football, in which it keeps the pressure off of Derek Carr. And let's see if the Chargers defense could get some pressure on Derek Carr, especially early. If they could do that, I think they have a better chance to win. Like I said, I picked the Chargers to win tonight, and I expect them to do that. The Raiders will have their first loss of the year.
Yeah, I agree. I said this. I think we all picked the Chargers, I believe. So yeah, I'm thinking that this will probably be the Raiders' first loss of the year. I think Herbert's going to have a really good game. I think the defense will also help out as well. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Joseph or Livo Joseph or Joey Bosa ends up getting an interception or something like that, or cause a turnover. I just think that I don't trust the Raiders defense. Like I said, I don't. So, and I think they benefited from some other, luck and stuff. So I think their luck runs out tonight. So I'm picking the Chargers too.
Yeah. Real quick, Lakeena, tonight on NBA TV as the preseason kicks off for everybody else around the National Basketball Association. At 6:30 p.m. Chicago time, we'll have the Atlanta Hawks and the Miami Heat. I know our good friend Alana Tekar will be looking forward to that one.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she already has this. I think she already has the games on her DVR.
Yeah. And then followed by the Warriors at the Trailblazers at 9 p.m. Chicago time. So there's a preseason doubleheader tonight on NBA TV.
All right, yeah. So sounds cool. All right, Sid, I know you're looking forward to a lot of the baseball. I'm also looking forward to the baseball as well. Also to actually remember college hoops. They start practicing. Last week. So the college basketball's right around the corner. So a lot coming up. We're going into the cooler months, but we're getting more sports. So also too, NHL. The NHL's already doing their preseason games. I believe the Hawks have a preseason game tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken. Sid?
Yep.
Okay, you get to kind of the new look of that particular TV lineup. They got some new people doing it this year. We're gonna, I guess, to rehearse for the potential replacement for Pat Foley and perhaps Eddie Olczyk. We'll see. But so you guys check that out on NBC Sports Chicago. So you guys can check those out as well. All right, you can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. You can listen to Second City Sports every Monday, every Friday on Sports Zone Chicago via the Facebook page on YouTube at Sports Zone Chicago. So hopefully the Facebook page will be up and running
back up
by the time we get back on here on Friday. But speaking of Sports Zone Chicago, make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps, whether it's the Apple iTunes Store or Google Play. Make sure that app says Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch up on any of our past shows. You can watch and listen to our live shows as well. So make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app today. You can follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you want to catch the audio version of this podcast, Second City Sports, you can do so. We're available on all podcast platforms at War or Anchor. Make sure you type in the search engine boxes WARR on Anchor. You can follow War Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WAR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yes, for Lakeena, I am Sid. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll catch you on Friday. We'll review Game 1 between the Houston Astros and the Chicago White Sox. Game 1 is Thursday. The time will be announced perhaps tomorrow, perhaps early Wednesday morning. We'll have Game 1, review Game 1 of that series, and perhaps preview Game 2 of that series. We assume will take place later on in the day. And we'll have your hashtag Football Friday preview for college football week 6 and week 5 preview for the National Football League. So as Lakeena said, we're heading to the exact right time of the year for all of our sports going on at once.
Oh boy, that was a lot of fun. So first said, I'm Lakeena. You know, it's getting a little cool out there, folks. So wear your jackets, and if you're not gonna get vaccinated, wear your mask, wash your hands, mind your business, and be good to each other. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday. Hopefully, we'll be back on Facebook as well.
Till Friday, go Sox! Soxtober is on. Holla!